Herzlich willkommen auf dem lösungsorientierten Vernetzungsportal Living Earth. Hier auf der Living Earth beleuchten wir jeden Monat ein bestimmtes Thema von den unterschiedlichsten Seiten, um dann das neu gewonnene Wissen, die praktischen Erfahrungen und Anwendungen in unserem Alltag und in unsere Projekte zu integrieren. So erschaffen wir gemeinsam, Schritt für Schritt, die neue lebendige Erde.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Living Earth. My name is Tatjana Strobel and today I have an amazing guest. I'm so happy and I'm so proud to have you, Jason Shields, here in the show. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You are such an amazing human being. You know, when I look at your bio, it's like I had the feeling that you are 200 or 250 years old. It seems that you've made so many things and that you were successful in so many different areas. So it's it's mind blowing. So how you did it? You know, you are a chiropractor. You're also how do you say, world champion in Jiu Jitsu. You also trained other world champions. You are a breathwork facilitator. You are a meditator. You are so much. This is amazing. Can you explain why you had so many? You know, if you look at it, it's different. They are different careers, but I'm sure there is something behind and it's not different. It's same at the end, but maybe tell us a little bit more. And I also read that you start as a child with meditating, which is really unusual. So tell us a little bit more about you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Interestingly enough, all of these things have some kind of a connection or relationship, and I'll unpack that for you over time. My father, my biological father, was heavily traumatized in the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. And when he came back, he was self-medicating himself for anxiety and paranoia and the trauma with drugs and alcohol. So my mom realized quite soon that that wasn't a healthy place for me to grow up. And she separated, but unfortunately, before she separated with my father at that time, she was also traumatized. Mm-hmm. And knowing this, being a very wise and strong woman, and knowing that she had to be healthy, not just strong, but also healthy for her son, me, she started to look for different ways of doing internal work. Mm-hmm. Now, this was in the 70s. So, you know, there were so many different options at that point, and she tried different things, different kinds of meditations, different social groups, hypnosis, all kinds of different things.
Wow.
And she was really cool. And she landed on transcendental meditation.
Oh, yes, amazing.
So if you've heard of that, yeah, a lot of people went through the TM movement, the transcendental meditation movement, and started with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, getting a mantra meditation and starting. And I had the first walking meditation, the walking mantra, when I was 5. So wow. 20 minutes twice a day, I would play and work and use my mantra, and it was quite nice until I was old enough to get a real sitting mantra, which in the TM movement at that time was 10 years old. So I had a practice and a routine and a life philosophy that my mom had adopted, both from the transcendental meditation movement, but also from reading lots of books and trying to understand herself. So I grew up in an environment where it was natural to take responsibility for your thinking and your feeling and your actions, and work with the things that kept you from being as harmonious as you could be. Mm. So my mom would always ask me the questions. She would ask me good questions so that I learned to reflect on what I was doing, why I was doing it. And through that process, she went on to basically develop herself into a quite an exciting and powerful person in the state of New Mexico, where she was mentoring prisoners, she was mentoring prison guards. She
Wow.
stopped a riot in a prison just by walking in and demanding attention. You know, was one of the first people to be on the Senate floor as a woman and talk to them and to explain the needs of the children in the Children Protective Services. It's amazing. So I had a great mentor in my mother, and she was extremely efficient as a person. So I learned that being efficient as a person was better than not being efficient. You know, and when I say that, if you're going to relax and be lazy, be efficient at being lazy. You know, it's not just about hard work, but it's like, if you're going to do something, do it with your whole heart. So based on that start, I had an early focus on trying at that time to become enlightened. That was the idea. So when I was 16, I started really heavy meditation, where I would meditate for 4 hours a day. It would be 1 hour of yoga and then 2 hours of meditation, in sitting meditation in the morning, and then 1 hour of yoga and then 2 more hours of meditation in the afternoon. And with that, all the time doing pranayama, doing the breath work in order to harmonize the nervous system. And that was in the search for enlightenment. But as I was walking back from one of these really amazing meditations, I was walking next to one of the gentlemen that I didn't speak very much to, but I spoke to once in a while. And I asked him, so why do you meditate? And he said, well, it's of course to become enlightened, Jason. And I said, oh, that's interesting. What's that? Because, you know, it was just something you did and an idea you had. And he said, well, enlightenment can't be described, Jason. So, and I said, well, if it can't be described and you have no definition of enlightenment, how do you know when you arrive?
Yeah, this would be my question.
Yeah, right. And he stopped and he looked at me like, how dare you? And then he didn't show up for meditation for like a whole week. He was like, the poor guy was shattered. And I kept meditating, of course, but what I realized very soon was that if your meditation is not making you more harmonious in your life, if you're not able to be more of you and create more of the things that you want and relate to your life in a better way, then you're not going in the best direction. So I realized that, like we say in the Integrated Human company, it's like we work from up, down, inside, out. So your meditation, your breath work, your chiropractic, your sports, everything you do should be creating a better, more harmonious expression from what you have inside you in the outside world. You should create a life that you love and that you become more and more efficient in. And I got to a place inside myself where I had to actually ask myself, am I integrated? Have I reached a place where I'm able to flow? Am I powerful even in desperate, dangerous situations? Am I able to be present and still be in love with my life when things are difficult? Or am I just making my daily routines so small that I avoid all challenges? Because many of the people that I had met in the movement, Transcendental Meditation movement, were living such a structured life and such a protected life that if any small thing was out of place, it was like their life had been shattered. That the breath work that they were doing and the meditation that they were doing was actually creating a hypersensitivity that blocked them from actually handling normal things in their everyday life. And I realized that's not what I want. I want to be more robust. I want to be more efficient. I want to have more energy. I want to have more love to give. I want to access the power that I have inside to learn, to develop, to grow and share. And if I have to lock myself into a tiny campus where everything, the meals are served in a certain way and they're always the same, and the sound levels are controlled and the light levels controlled, and you go to bed at 8:30 and you wake up at 5 and you do that, everything is so comfortable. If that's what I have to do in order to live an enlightened life, then I feel that I've missed my mark. So my wife and I, Siv, we moved from the campus where we went to college, which they had transcendental meditation as a basis. That's how we were able to meditate that much. And we moved to chiropractic school in Dallas, Texas. And that was a completely different arena, because there it was all about getting the grades, being best in class. It was all about competition. It was all about, studying for exams, passing state boards. And your patients didn't care if you'd meditated that morning or not. They just wanted help. And I realized that meditation was an outside community thing in that transcendental movement, but in the outside world, outside this small microcosm that we had there, people were only ever considering how efficient you were, if you showed up on time, if you followed your end of the deal, and all of the things that the outside world demands. So I realized that there was a separation between the spiritual life in many people's idea, where they don't want to take responsibility, they don't want to show up on time, they don't want to have to pay their bills, they hate paying their taxes. And then you have the other side, the material side, where it's all about how much and how far and how much status you have. So as a young man, I was fascinated by how far away these two worlds seemed in so many people's hearts and minds. It's like if you were driving a nice car, of course you couldn't be a meditator, of course you were just a material person. And if you didn't have a great job, of course you weren't a responsible individual in society. But I realized that we can have all of these things suddenly. Why do we have to choose one side of this coin or the other? So understanding that the internal work that I had done had given me a way of becoming resilient inside and feel what was going on inside, I realized that I could use that in order to grow my life, to be loving and present and resilient in my relationships, to be loving and resilient at work so that I could work 12, 14, 16-hour days. And when I went to sleep and I woke back up, I was still super happy to go back to work. And I realized that the internal process that I had gave me the ability to have an unending appetite for the things that were building my life. I loved going to work. I loved talking to my patients. I love paying my taxes, because that means I made lots of money. And making money doesn't mean that I didn't meditate and love people. It was a byproduct of the work that I was doing. It was never my focus. It was just something that happened because I was so much in love with helping people. So I got to a certain point where I was like, okay, I'm working a lot and I see that I'm not having balance in my life. And I found that out because my mother came to visit. And my mom said, now, this is a little harsh. So if you're a little sensitive in your heart as a child, your inner child sensitive, you don't want to listen to this.
Okay, stop
said,
it now.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like trigger warning. She said, Jason, you're fat. What? Yeah, I'm fat. She said, you're fat. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, I've been here for 3 weeks. And I've only seen you for like 6 hours because you're always working. I said, but I love to work. She said, you're always working, but you're not working out. And I said, oh, you're right. Actually, you're right. And I said, but Mom, aren't you supposed to tell me that I need to eat more? Isn't that the mom's job to see if her kids is never eating enough? And she laughed and she said, if you need to eat more, I don't know what's going on because you are not in shape, Jason. So at that point, I realized that, first of all, I was so passionate. I was so passionate about my work that I wasn't in balance in my life. I was glad to get up in the morning. I was glad to see my patients. I was at one point seeing my first patient at 5:15 in the morning and working until 10 o'clock at night. So if you see that I've had over 38,000 individual consultations, then you understand how many patients that actually is. So in order to have that kind of a life, you have to really commit the hours. And when I would come home at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, of course, I would eat whatever I could just get my hands on. And I realized that I wasn't, my emotions, my mind and my emotions were online, but I wasn't taking care of my body. I needed to do some kind of training to find some more balance. And my mom, of course, she dropped a hammer on me, right? So then I realized that I needed to bring something into my life. And at one point, I had been doing a lot of doing karate. And I was training with the national team in Norway, but I was an American national, so I couldn't compete with them. After a short time, I lost a little bit of interest in that because my practice grew even more. And I had to really focus on trying to serve as many people as I could. Then I found Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And that was Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was what I found after my mom told me I was so fat. So I realized that I had to change the constellation in my office and get other people in to help me serve people. And I had to create that time for myself so that I could exercise and do something that I found was fun. And it was amazing. Jiu-jitsu is so holistic and it's very biomechanical. Now, this is what you were saying. Everything in my life is connected. So as you know, a chiropractor is a doctor of biomechanics. So I learn how to fix the biomechanics of people's spines and their necks and their shoulders and their wrists and their elbows, knees and ankles. Jiu-jitsu is the art of breaking all of those things. So if you know how to fix it, you also know how to disrupt it. So this was an interesting situation because the sport allowed me to get in shape, but also to learn to use my biomechanical knowledge in a self-defense way. And it was also something that was really good for me because, Tatiana, in the spiritual world, there's something called the golden chain. Have you heard about that?
No.
The golden chain is when we meditate and we love the world, but then we want everything in the world to be good. We want it to be happy. We want it to be harmonious. We want it to be beautiful. But do you think it's going to be beautiful, harmonious, and happy everywhere in the world? Never. Never. And I'm a healer, correct? I am a healer. So do I want to break somebody's arm? Of course not. That's not my intention in the world. But learning jiu-jitsu gave me a more full spectrum understanding of the world. So I realized from working with jiu-jitsu that we're not just good people, we're total people.
Mhm.
The experience of living is total, and you need to be robust and prepared for the totality that is life, for the violence that may be in your environment. You would like to be able to act efficiently and appropriately, and you would also like to be able to act efficiently and appropriate at your child's birthday party and all the happy, good things in your life. Some people I've found in my coaching avoid bad situations like it's the plague, bad, discomfort, challenging, things that don't make them feel like a superstar, which all improvement starts you being horrible at something and getting better. So if you can't be horrible at something, then you'll never
You never
improve.
get better.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, and on the other side of it, almost all of us have been in traumatic situations. And if we learn how to first accept the fact that life does have traumatic situations, that's the first step in being able to use it for our growth.
Mhm.
So through my fighting in jiu-jitsu and competing against people who did actually want to hurt me, I realized that I could stay conscious with my breath, present in my emotions, connected to my body, and I could work efficiently to escape bad positions and to win fights, which then gave me the world championship. So the superpower that I had in jiu-jitsu was that my mental, emotional, and physical connection, mainly through my body, through breath, allowed me to be conscious even in the most painful, distressing, and dangerous positions. And if people look online and want to see a jiu-jitsu tournament, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu tournament, you're going to see full action, and you're going to see people getting injured, and you're going to see all kinds of emotional states and ego states that come up and around all of this, because you're really trying to make another person quit. You're trying to dominate them. And that's another thing. In my life of service, my first desire is not to dominate people. But again, we're not golden chain people, because golden chain people only want to be goody goodies. But in the end, the goody goodies are the ones that become judgmental and hateful for everybody else often. We want to be total, and to be able to accept and experience the dark side of your personality, and again, still be present and loving and focused, is an unbelievable tool in the process of achievement. So when I work with people who have done meditation, and I work with people who've done a lot of breath work, I always say, show me your results. And they're like, well, what do you mean? How has your life gotten better through your work? How has your relationship with yourself gotten better? Show me. I want to see it. And that's what I tried to do. First, I realized that I should connect my spiritual world with my material world. Then I found ways to challenge myself through career and service, and then through sport and fight. And then I realized, well, if I can do this, people will think that I am special, and I am not special. One of the things that my stepfather told me, he said, Jason, in your life, you must work very hard, because my son, you were not born with any talent.
Okay.
So, and I appreciate that, because I have worked hard, but I'm not special in any way. And I didn't want people to think that I was special. I wanted them to do the work, to do their personal work, to get their own inner genius moving. So I showed other people in my club how to work with this. So out of 25 people, I was able to create 4 world champions.
Wow.
And we took 11 fighters to the European Championship, and 8 of them came back with medals.
Wow. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. But it's not me, it's the work. It's doing the breath work, it's doing the meditation, it's devoting some time to give yourself the opportunity to really get a hold of the power that you have and give that to your life. So that's basically how that started working. So I did the jiu-jitsu fighting and also the jiu-jitsu coaching and the performance coaching for business people in the evenings after I saw my patients. So very often I would start with my patients at 7 in the morning and not 5. So I would be doing my meditations and get up at 5 and work towards aligning myself to work at 7. And then I would work until about 4 o'clock. And then I would have consultations with coaching. And then I would go train jiu-jitsu in the evening. And then I would take the last 2 hours with my beautiful wife and relax and then go to sleep. So that's been my cycle of performance. And it's been really, really fun.
It's not normal, Jason. I think it's not normal. It's special. I feel it's special because, if everyone do this work, we will probably have another world, if everyone is into it and like you improving and make experience, it's all about experience, I'm with you. It's all about, I can't say I don't like it because I have to do it. I have to feel it. I have to go, and then I can say I like it or not, it's for me or not, and even not the first time because I have to try it again and again and again. But the most people are not like this, they maybe they stop it from their mind. They say, oh, this is nothing for me. Or they did it once and say, oh, this is nothing for me. But the most people are not going on like you and bring these things together and realize that everything is related to each other. And even I don't know what you are doing. In my point of view, everything is related to everything. There is, it's fascinating. If I do something, it's like something is moving, something is happening because I'm part of everything. I'm energy, and my energy goes on, even the good as the bad, if you want to say it like this. So I find it very special. And also, I met you, and we met in Engsbacka a few weeks ago, and it was, it was so beautiful and lovely because you and also your wife and also Marit, which is also part of your company, Integrated Human. You were so kind, so friendly, so lovely, so unjudgment. Do you say it like this? You are not judging. You watch the things and you have an idea what you want or not, but you are not judging. It is like it is, And this is very special. It's very special, and also your point of view. And for me and also for my friends, it was a, a, a deep connection we had, and it was a life-changing experience to meet you and also worked with you, because Steve and Marit and you did the breath work in combination with the tremoring, which was absolutely awesome. So maybe you were talking about breath, that the breath was very important for you. Can you explain a little bit more the role of the breath? Why is the breath so important, and why is it important that we are aware of it? Because not no one, but the most people are not aware of their breath.
That's true. That's true. First of all, we loved meeting you guys too. We found you so much in our hearts and connected with you instantly. We were still talking about you every single day. We love you guys. We really do. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I was doing the deep meditations, we would always start with a very easy alternative nostril pranayama or breath sequence to harmonize the right and left parts of our brain. Now, we know that one of the most essential things that a person can do is breathe. And the breath and the body lives in the moment. And you have a certain kind of breath when you're enjoying. You have a certain kind of breath when you're angry. You have a certain breath when you're determined. You have a certain breath when you're making love. You have a certain breath when you're enjoying good food. And anybody who has ever had any contact with themselves or listened to other people's breathing will know that this is the truth. So our consciousness, our awareness, and our spirit is transitioned to our breath that enters our body and is life. So in many traditions and many languages, the breath and the soul are almost the same word. Anima. Anima. So the vital energy that comes from our soul enters the body through the breath. And by relating to the breath, you're actually relating to everything else in your life. Because no matter what you're doing, aware of it or not, your breath is with you. And many of the ancient traditions have mantra, chanting, singing, and pure body breath work, because all of these things create a mind, emotion, and body contact that's present in the moment. Because if you're with your breath, you are present. And you'll notice that when people lose themselves, they lose contact with their body, they lose contact with their situation, they lose contact with everything. If they're able to come back to their breath to reset themselves, they will then also gain focus in their mind again. And I mention this specifically because in Jiu Jitsu, in the championships, in the tournaments, people are devoting their life to fighting. And they need and want to win. They just don't want, they need to win, because they're sacrificing so much time, so much energy, so much money. And everybody understands that if you get hurt, it's on you. So when people are attacking you and literally trying to choke you unconscious, they're trying to break your wrists, they're trying to break your arms, they're trying to break your knees. You have to be able to be present in these situations and in contact with the breath. So I would always come back to the breath, because then my body would obey me. And when my body obeyed me, we always won. Tapped. I was never finished by an opponent in any of my matches through my whole career, because I was always able, because of the breath work and meditation, to come back to myself, to be in myself, even in the most critical situations, and act accordingly. And that came not from a special talent, it came from doing breath work.
So how
yes.
Sorry, how you
No
can
worries.
come back to yourself? Is there
Yeah.
a special, I don't know, task, or can you show it how it goes to come back? It doesn't care in what kind of moment. How can you come back to yourself?
The first one is come back to your breathing. Witness your actual breath. Then you will start taking control over the mind as well. The mind and your thinking may be crazy, but if you're with your breath, if you come back to your breath, then you will be in the moment. So for example, for the people listening to this right now, I'm going to ask you, do you feel your butt on the chair? Or have you been listening to my voice and lost contact with your butt? Okay, now you feel your butt. Okay, what about the feet? What about your feet on the floor? Did you feel your feet before I said feet? Ah, now you know that you're going to have to come back to your body. Aha, what about your breath? As you're speaking, as you're listening, you can actually feel your breath and listen to me at the same time. It costs you no energy. But we're so used to falling away from ourselves when we're being entertained mindlessly with our TV, with our mobile phones. We're so used to freezing and losing ourselves when we're getting criticized or challenged or triggered. We lose contact with ourselves because we get emotionally charged. And by definition, as we're getting triggered, we're actually going back subconsciously to a time when we were traumatized and we're not in the moment. So the first thing I would say is come back to the breath, Jason. Duh. Ah, okay. Taking a deep breath and seeing if I can do vertical breathing, which means when I breathe, I try to push the air all the way down to the lowest chakra. So I should feel my perineum, basically the basin of my pelvis, it should expand as I breathe down. Ah, it goes all the way down and pushes down into that first chakra, because that means that I'm activating my root chakra, which is the most basic, fundamental, present, manifest part of ourselves. So that's a neat technique from Jiu Jitsu. It's to do vertical breathing, which is take a breath and push it down. Don't think about your belly going out. Push the breath down so that you feel that spot between your legs expand and open, because then you know you're all the way in your body again. So that's the first coming back. When I'm being attacked and choked and it looks really not so good, if I freak out and lose myself, I know I'm going to lose the match. But if I can bring myself back with the vertical breathing and in my body, I can make those micro changes in angle that allow me to escape and then recover and then win.
Okay, so if I understood it right, is
Yes.
you are focused, you bring yourself back to your breath, and then you take a deep breath to the root chakra.
Yes, and I call it vertical breathing. So I basically, almost like it's a breathing hand of consciousness. I breathe down into my root chakra, boof, and land there. And that brings me back into the moment, back into my body, ready to respond.
So this could be an idea for all stressful situations, or if someone shout on me or if someone criticize me. So then I remind myself, go back to the breath, take a deep breath into your root chakra, hold it, and okay.
That's it. That's perfect. And that's battle breathing. If you want to put a name on it, battle breathing.
Ah, okay. Battle breathing. Ah, that's cool. Uh-huh.
And just as a strange idea, if somebody's laying on top of you and really pushing your lungs together, you can still breathe down into your perineum. You can breathe down and still get oxygen. You may not be able to expand your chest, but you can breathe downward and still get all the oxygen you need. Because an interesting physiological fact is that 2/3 of your lungs' ability to absorb oxygen is in the lower 1/3 of your lungs. So if you breathe downwards into your first chakra, you're actually driving the air directly into that 1/3. Isn't that cool?
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's really
And
amazing.
it works.
I do a lot of this chakra briefing, and it's so fascinating. You can feel how the energy, goes on, and yeah, it's moving. And also 1 or 2 hours later, I feel that the energy is moving through my body, which is absolutely mind blowing what we can do. Uh, I realized now in this month that the most people has no idea about the power of the breath, what we can do with the breath. I worked last week. I worked with Neosho. You also met Neosho. We made qigong, and
Oh,
it was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And he made something. He pushed you here, and you fall down. He pushed you, and you have to start to give the power in it. and
yes.
and he gives all the power, and the first time he made it, we fall back, and then he helped us as well to focus on the earth, to how to say, to give all the power into your feet and the earth, that you are like a tree with roots. And then he did it again, and we were so strong, it was nearly
Whoa.
impossible to push us away. And it's a little bit similar to your vertical breathing, it reminds me a little bit on this. It's another perspective, because you feel yourself like a tree, and you give some roots into the floor, and then you have more stability. But it
Mhm.
seems two techniques, the same result.
Yes, exactly. Because regardless of the tradition that we work with, I always like to point out one interesting fact in the big seminars that we're having. And I asked, okay, who here is a human? And people raise their hand. And I said, who here has a nervous system? People raise their hand. Because all of these techniques are true. They work with our nervous systems. They work regardless of what culture or system they come from. They all have some kind of way of stimulating our nervous system. So if we take that as our master, if we take the starting point that we are humans with a nervous system, then we can accept all of these techniques from different traditions, and they look very similar because they all have to access the nervous system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the nervous system, that's the transition between the energy fields and us. It's so cool. So you were saying that for you, everything is energy, and that's totally true. It's so amazing, so I agree. So Nyosho has the same idea as I do. Yes, that's beautiful.
Wow. You said at the beginning that there is also kind of breath work to bring the right and the left brain sides together. Can you tell
Yes,
us something about this technique?
it's one of the most basic techniques in the system of pranayama, which is Sanskrit for basically the movement and the study and science of prana, which is our vital energy. And we use that in order to create a silent space to begin work with mantra. Our left and right sides, they have different qualities. And depending on what kind of a day you've had and what kind of a person you are, you may have much more activity on one of them than you have on the other. So that will often give rise to a certain tendency to obsessive thinking or fantasy or creation if they're not harmonized.
Mm.
So the one side will balance the other. So it's quite easy because you just cover up one of the nostrils,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you breathe in And then cover and breathe out on the other side. And in on the same side. Cover, out, in, cover, out, in, cover, out. And just doing 5 breaths like this, you'll notice.
That's it. 5 breaths.
Well, even that little, you'll notice that there's a change in your body, that you are actually more quiet inside. Now, before a good meditation, I may do this anywhere from 1 minute to 10 minutes. It depends on how much energy and how much balance I need for the meditation. Because a lot of people will know and recognize that if they're quite sleepy, they'll have a meditation instead of a meditation.
Oh.
That they fall asleep as they're starting to meditate, which happens to many people. And some yogis use that as a transition into transcendental consciousness, that they fall asleep and then wake up in the transcendent. But I always find it more efficient to be completely conscious and aware as I start my meditation, especially with mantras. And I'll use this technique to clear my nervous system so that I'm ready to go.
It's so beautiful, Jason. We can talk for hours or days, and I'm sure it wasn't the last time. At the 6th of October, you are doing a session for the living earth. It's named Moksha. Can you tell us a little bit more about this session and why it's really important that you join?
Listen, show up for the Moksha session, because I'm going to give you one of the most essential meditation secrets that I've never, ever heard anybody else talk about. I'm going to transition your meditation practice through breath from your meditation room to the rest of your life. You will be able to take your meditation consciousness, the merits that you receive in your meditation, with you every moment in your actual living life. It's going to be a wonderful, excellent experience, and I can't wait to be there with you.
Me too. Oh my God, I'm so excited now. Oh, wow. And you are also in Munich at the 26th of October. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. I can't wait. I love Germany. I love Germans. I can't wait to be there. We're going to do a tremor to flow event. We will first do breath work and deep philosophical and mystical research. And then we will transition the last part of the day and teach neurogenic integration technique, which many people know as trauma releasing exercises. And I believe you had a good experience with that in Ängsbacher.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's so much fun. And it releases old karma, old trauma, old knots from the body, so that your body is not an anchor for the things that hold you to your past. It's going to help open up the body, open up your circulation and your muscles and your consciousness, so that you're ready to be more present and active and proactive in your life afterwards. So it's filling up, and I hope I see a lot of people from the living earth there. I can't wait to see you.
It's beautiful. I also will link everything, in the under the video, so that everyone is informed what you're doing, and also your normal work. So Jason, I'm so fascinated about your work, and also what you, Merit, and Sif are doing. It's such amazing work, and it's so important for the humanity at the moment, that we bring these worlds together. You know, I think also at the beginning, as you said, these two worlds, they are still existing, you know, this material world and the spiritual world. And I don't say this is right or this is wrong, but it must be a middle of both, because everything is possible. And yeah, and you are like a bridge for these two worlds, and it's very important that you do this amazing work. I'm so thankful to meet you, and thankful that you had this interview with me. And I hope it was the beginning of much more.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you for these moments, Tatiana. I'm so proud of you guys at the Living Earth, and I'm so honored to be here. You are also supporting the world and giving people a chance to wake up. And I honor you for that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jason.
so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you that you watched us. And I'm short before crying. So if you like the video, please share it with the world, because it's very important that the people listen to this wonderful information. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and see you soon. Bye.
Auf der Living Earth teilen wir viele Lösungen wie diese, um gemeinsam eine neue, lebendige Erde zu gestalten. Schaue dir jetzt gleich das Video auf der Startseite an und finde heraus, was für andere wundervolle Dinge die Living Earth noch kann. Jeder Pionier ist wertvoll. Falls du also noch kein Pionier bist, komm, wir freuen uns auf dich.